So good evening, everybody. My name is Sophie and I'm joined by my colleague Charlotte, and we are oral health improvement practitioners at Community Dental Services, and we are based in Oxfordshire. Next slide, please, Charlotte. So it is currently National Smile Month, and National Smile Month is the largest oral health campaign that brings together thousands of people and organisations with the aim of providing key messages, knowledge and advice around oral health. And those key messages are to brush your teeth for 2 minutes twice a day with a fluoride toothpaste, to visit your dentist regularly, ideally every 6 months, but we know that the pandemic has made this difficult. However, do make sure that you call your dentist to book an appointment or go on a waiting list. And with that being said, looking after our teeth and being mindful of our sugar content will help prevent any issues. Diet, so reducing sugary foods and drinks, which is what we'll be discussing today. And you may have noticed that this month we've had lots going on to support the campaign. We often get asked many questions from parents about children's diet and their teeth, and that's the reason we thought we'd do a live Q&A to discuss the questions that you submitted. If you have further questions whilst we're talking, then please add them to the question section and we will do our best to answer them. Next slide, please, Charlotte. Thank you. So to start off with, I'm going to give you a quick overview on how a diet low in fresh fruit and vegetables and high in sugar can affect your oral health. And then we'll answer your specific questions that you submitted. So in our mouths, there's thousands of teeny tiny bacteria. And when we eat anything that contains sugar, these bacteria feed on that. And they then excrete, so they poop acid onto our teeth. And it is that acid that causes tooth decay. It is really important to realise that when it comes to our teeth, it is not only how much sugar we eat, but also how often we eat it. And unfortunately, it's not only sugar that we have to consider when we're thinking about our diet and our teeth, but also acidic foods and drinks. So a diet with lots of acidic foods and drinks, such as juice and squash and pickles, fizzy pop, can all cause dental erosion. Dental erosion is getting more and more common. It's irreversible and can make your teeth very sensitive. So in the images, you've got tooth decay on the top left, and then the bottom picture, that translucent appearance at the bottom of the teeth, that is dental erosion. Okay, next slide, please, Charlotte. So it is recommended that in one day, we have no more than 4 sugar acid attacks to our teeth, and that does include our 3 main meals. So when we eat something with sugar in it, our pH of our mouth drops into a dangerous zone, and that is where we are susceptible to decay, and it takes our mouth around half an hour to recover from that. So for that reason, it's recommended that we have any sugary foods and drinks with a meal or as a pudding, and have low sugar, ideally no sugar foods and drinks, water and milk between our meals. So if you look at the 2 graphs there, you've had somebody that's had breakfast, lunch and dinner and supper, and they've recovered from those sugar acid attacks and they've gone back into the blue zone, which is the healthy zone. And the other graph is somebody who's had sugary snacks in between their meals, and you can see how often they are susceptible to decay there. Okay, thank you, Charlotte. Next slide, please. So these are snacks that should all be avoided between our meals. They are high in fat and sugar, or acidic, or both, and can cause dental erosion. So these snacks are best to have as an occasional treat, and with a meal or as a pudding. You may wonder why a smoothie is on there, and that's because fruit that's in its raw form, so fresh fruit, is full of fibre, and that fibre contains all the sugars until it reaches our belly, and then it's digested and it breaks it up. However, when we change fruit in any way, so we cook it, we dry it, we blend it, we release those sugars prior to consuming it. So that makes it no longer tooth friendly, especially with a smoothie when you're constantly sipping, so we're staying in that dangerous zone for a longer period of time. Next slide, please, Charlotte. Thank you. So some great tooth-friendly snacks. We've got fresh fruit and vegetables, bread, rice cakes, breadsticks, natural yogurt, plain popcorn, cheese. There's lots and lots of tooth-friendly snacks out there. It's just the convenient ones and the ones that we tend to pick up are the ones that are really sugary. Thank you, Charlotte. Next slide. So our daily sugar recommendations. So Public Health England's guidance starts from the age of 4. So that is why the pink box there and the yellow box there are starred, because that's our dietitian that's come up with those statistics there. So we've got 4 to 6 year olds at 19 grams, that's 5 sugar cubes maximum. 7 to 10-year-olds is 24 grams in a day, so that's 6 sugar cubes. 11 plus in adults is 30 grams, 7 sugar cubes. And then our recommendations, because we understand that children, age 2 and 3, 3 and 4 are going to have some sugar. It's not realistic to expect them to have no sugar. So for 2 to 3-year-olds is 13 grams, so that's 3 sugar cubes. And for 3 to 4-year-olds is 16 grams, so 4 sugar cubes. So it's easier to remember in cubes because it goes up in cubes evenly there. Thank you, Charlotte. So your questions. So we asked you to submit some questions, and thank you, you did. So we're going to answer those questions now. So I think we're going to break from the sharing of the screen so that you can see us properly. Thank you.
Okay, so we had quite a few questions. And the first one is, Sophie, my child will not touch fruit unless it's in a smoothie. You've already told us some bad side effects of smoothies, so they won't touch fruit unless it's in a smoothie. What would you recommend? Absolutely.
So I think that's probably quite common. And obviously, as Charlotte said, and like I said, fruit changed in any way is no longer tooth friendly. So although a smoothie is a great way to get fruit into a child, we'd recommend that these are had with a main meal or as a pudding after a meal. And the reason for this is that when we have our main meal, we produce more saliva, and that helps to neutralize the acids and neutralize the sugar attack that's happening. We'd recommend making your smoothie from home, and that way you'll know exactly what is being consumed by your child. And you can even sneak some tooth-friendly foods in there too, like spinach, kale, celery, things like that they probably won't even realise you've popped in there. And then encourage your child to help you make the smoothie so they get more familiar with the fruit, and it'd be a great opportunity at that point to encourage them to try bits of the raw pieces of fruit as well.
Oh, that's a really good idea. So they're trying it as you're going along, so they might be more inclined to sneak a bit in as they're chopping it up. I like that idea. That's a good idea.
And realise that it's actually very tasty. You could encourage smoothies to be drank through a straw. It'll help avoid some of the teeth. I mean, it's not the best solution, but it's certainly going to help a little bit. And another really, really important factor when it comes to smoothie is the portion size. So an adult should have a maximum of 150 mils of smoothie, and for a child, it's 75 mils or less. So a pre-made smoothie pouch is normally an adult size portion, not a child.
That's so misleading as well, isn't it? Because that's what you're buying. You think you're buying a children's drink, those little pouches, and actually you're getting double what your child should be having. Oh, absolutely. It's really hard. And who measures their drinks? It is really hard, isn't it? So I think, do it from home, and then you can measure it out and you know exactly what's in it, or find a cup that fits that amount and always use that cup.
Yep.
And so that doesn't look like a small amount, perhaps. Some great tips there, Sophie. Thank you. Right. Number 2, is there anything I can do to make natural yogurt more appealing for my child? I know that flavored yogurts have lots of sugar in them. Oh, yes, the yogurts. Oh, right. Absolutely. Sophie, what tips have you got for yogurt?
Yeah, definitely. So a low-fat natural yogurt is not the nicest. We know that. And the fats in yogurts are healthy fats. So we'd recommend using a full-fat version to start off with. They're a nicer texture, a nicer taste. And then adding fresh fruit, nuts and seeds too, to add some texture and some more flavour. And if you buy a bigger pot of yogurt and portion it out, it will actually give you more control over portion size and probably work out cheaper as well.
Yeah, definitely a bit of economy in there. Nice.
Yeah, so you can add sweetener too. So studies have determined that xylitol boosts dental health and helps prevent tooth decay. And there is a new sweetener that me and Charlotte were informed by a colleague the other day called Pure Sweet Zero. And it was actually featured on the Dragon's Den recently. So we don't know too much about it. But it's made with a sweetener that's naturally occurring in watermelons, pears and grapes. It is 0 calorie and claims to be good for your oral health.
Yeah, it's very similar, isn't it, to xylitol? And can you buy both of those in the supermarket? I know you can buy xylitol in the supermarket, which is ironically near the sugar.
Yeah.
Do you know where? Because I don't really look for it, but do you know about the Pure Sweet?
So I've had a look at Pure Sweet, and it is online. I've never seen it in a shop. That doesn't mean it isn't, but again, I don't really look for it, so it might be, but it's certainly something you can buy online, so it might be worth trying.
Yeah, and then normally buy the sugar, ironically, buy the other sweeteners.
Yeah.
Okay, those are really good tips. Have you got anything else?
Yeah, so I was just going to say it's definitely worth persisting with the natural yogurt. Flavoured yogurts are very high in sugar, and an example of that is a corner yogurt contains just under 16 grams of sugar. So that's 2 grams under a 4 to 6 year old daily recommendations.
Wow,
in
just
that
in
corn yogurt
one
alone.
yogurt.
So yeah,
that's really shocking.
And we think they're a healthy snack.
Yeah.
Don't we? Yogurt, you know, we all do. And actually, realistically, they're really, really sugary.
Yeah. And so the natural yogurt itself has got some sugar in it, hasn't it? Naturally occurring sugar, but that's okay. We don't need to count that as part of our added sugar. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So lots of tips there about making plain yogurt a little bit more palatable, because it's really hard switching back, isn't it? Going from something sugary to something less sugary, because obviously it tastes quite different.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Next question. Oh, this classic is a good one, Sophie. I can't get my daughter to drink water. Any suggestions? For school, we have to use flavoured water. Oh, so they're sneaking in some flavoured water.
We hear this quite a lot, don't we, Charlotte?
Yeah, we get this all the time.
We do. We work quite closely with schools and with nurseries who say that the water bottles aren't water. And it's unfortunately having to be a bit cruel to be kind with this one. So water doesn't really taste of anything. So it's likely that the child just knows there's an alternative that does taste of something and tastes better. And obviously when we're sipping drinks throughout the day, so things like flavoured water, they're acidic. So we're constantly having that acidic attack to our teeth throughout the day. And that's why it's so important that anything we drink between our meals is water or milk. And obviously giving them that alternative, that's what they're going to want. So it's being a little bit cruel to be kind, but if they're thirsty, they'll drink the water.
Unless they're really stubborn. There's always that child that's really stubborn and just will refuse to drink. But yeah, I think, and you could play that sort of game where you could say you can have the flavoured water or the squash with a meal, and let them have some with a meal, a small amount, and then in between trying to have something that's plain. What about adults? So because obviously we're not going to recommend tea and coffee to children, but if adults would have that, because you just said milk and water. I don't drink milk. I do love water. What about tea and coffee?
Yeah, so you can absolutely be having your tea and coffee between your meals. Just again, no sugar. And if you are someone that likes it sweet, then swap to the sweeteners.
Have a sweetener
for that. Yeah.
Perfect.
So, tea and coffee, I couldn't live without them, so I can't tell people not to have those.
No, absolutely. Couldn't live without the first 3 cups of the day. No. Right, number 4. Okay, number 4. It's a bit more serious, this one. My son is on quite a few medications, but he has a very low sugar diet. He's only 5 and he's already got 2 fillings. Can we do anything about this?
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So it's really, really hard when you've been trying so hard in terms of diet and brushing and still finding that regardless your child's getting tooth decay and needing fillings. Unfortunately, medications can be very high in sugar, but positively many have a sugar-free alternative, so it's definitely worth chatting to a GP to see if that is available. And if it's not available, and if it is possible, then to try and have that medication with a meal just to reduce the amount of sugar acid attacks again. But we do appreciate that medication is priority. So for that reason, it's, you know, as you're doing, it's really important to make sure all other aspects of oral health are great. So sticking to that low sugar diet, keeping up with the brushing thoroughly morning and night. And but it's really tough. Really
it is tricky, and I think also people don't realize, they think it's medication, so we'll give it in between or whenever, you know, every 4 hours or whatever they've been told, and not realizing actually if it isn't sugar free it can be damaging the teeth, even though it's not food or drink.
Absolutely
really,
and I think
tricky.
It gets hidden sometimes, sort of. There's a bit of a battle with the dentist hasn't quite caught up to the fact that it's the medication, and the parents are getting frustrated and upset, or the caregiver, and wondering, why is this still happening? You know, we're trying really hard. So it's great to educate people that those medications can be the cause of tooth decay. So
more often than not, you can get sugar-free, can't you? And if not, have it with a meal.
Absolutely.
Okay. Brilliant. Thanks, Soph. Okay. Right. Oh, this is another one that we hear quite a lot. So last question, this one. My child is obsessed with sweets and it's a constant battle. She also has a poor appetite and I'm concerned she won't be getting what she needs. What can I do to try and avoid the conflict and offer healthier choices which will be more appealing and fill her up?
Yeah, absolutely. I think everybody loves sweets. However, it is really important that we recognise them as an occasional treat and not a snack. So limit how many sweet treats are in the house and offer alternative tooth-friendly snacks. And and aim for things that will be filling. So nuts and seeds, toast with butter or a cheese spread, and plain popcorn's great because often that children associate popcorn as a treat, and plain popcorn's too friendly. Yeah, definitely. So that could be something that you
and it's really fun to make. And if you just buy a bag of corn and do your own, you know how much you're making, and it's really fun to watch. So if she's a small child, then she'll like all the popping.
So that's a great snack. And try to keep food fun and appealing for her. So you could use little food cutters to make fun shapes, keep food bright and colourful. And a great idea that we saw on Veg Power was fruit kebabs. So they encourage children to make their own fruit kebabs, just different patterns, different colours, different fruits. It's just fun and engaging. And you could allocate a specific time for sweet treats. So, for example, a movie night or a game night. Keep a treat tin that your daughter could choose something from, 1 or 2 things for that occasion, and then try and include other snacks. So like your plain popcorn or fresh fruit out that you don't normally have. So maybe berries or kiwis or pineapple, so that they're not only picking and grazing on the sweet things, but they've got tooth-friendly options in there as well.
And they might end up eating more of that.
Yeah,
I like
absolutely.
that. I do the tin thing with my son. He's quite old now. He's 10. But he knows all the sweets. That's where the sweets are. We get it out once a week. Otherwise, it's out of sight, out of mind. You don't know it's there. You don't ask for it. But yeah, as you can probably imagine, I'm quite mean on the old sweet front.
No, it was my upbringing that we had a movie night on a Saturday night. And
I like that idea. That's great. So, that's nice. And it's a family event.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. It's a treat. And that's what we want sweet things to be known as. Something that could also work is introducing your daughter to the Sugar Smart app. So the app is really fun and interactive, and you can scan barcodes, see how much sugar is in the product. You could perhaps set her the task of finding a treat with the lowest sugar content when you go shopping. So she's got something to do, but she's also learning and being educated at the same time.
Nice.
And the app's really good for adults too. It's really eye-opening. So there's many snacks that I've scanned that I will never eat again. And there is many snacks that you go down a child's aisle in a supermarket and it's advertised to children, so you assume it's low in sugar, but it's not until you scanned it and realise just how much sugar is in there that you realise how unfriendly for our teeth they are. So that's the Sugar Smart app, and that is free to download.
It is. It's brilliant. Yeah, it's been around for quite a while now, hasn't it? So the bank of what's in it is pretty big and pretty good. Works really well.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Absolutely.
Well, some really great answers, Sophie. Thanks very much. And if, like Sophie said earlier, if you've got any questions, then please just put them into the chat, and we will do our best at the end to answer them for you. So I think I'm going to do the next bit now about lunch boxes. So I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. Okay. Going to move on from the questions. Okay. So packing the perfect lunchbox. So Sophie's already mentioned earlier that we do quite a lot of work with children at nurseries and sometimes primary schools as well. And we get this all the time because unfortunately lunchboxes don't have any of the same standards and mandatory sort of controls over what goes into them. So you can pretty much put whatever you want into a lunchbox. And then obviously you've got the regulations for school dinners. So it can be for schools and nurseries quite a battle because, you know, not always the lunchboxes are healthy and not always the lunchboxes are in low sugar or low fat. And so it can just be really hard as well for parents, I'm one too, to know what to put in it, and especially when you're short of time and things like that. But so we're just going to cover a few bits and pieces and hopefully give you a few ideas as well. I'm not going to read out everything that's on the slide, but just the top bar is really simple and nice. I like it. It's really plain to see what needs to go in. So 1 or 2 portions of starchy food, a portion of protein food. So that could be any meat alternatives, could be lentils, beans, eggs, fish, meat. Doesn't always have to be ham. At least 1 portion of vegetables. So lunchtime is a great time because they're hungry. They, you know, they've had a really busy morning at school or at nursery. So get a portion of vegetables in there. And that's a really good opportunity just to add that extra veg in. And then 1 portion of fruit and at least 1 portion of milk or dairy foods, or again, those dairy alternatives. And so I was having a little research just to double check I was giving you the right information. But children's really between the ages of 2 to 5 should be having around about 350 to 400 calories. Now that sounds scary when you say children and calories. And everyone's like, oh no, that's going to cause a problem. But this is just an idea for you to get an idea, a snapshot of what they should be having. I think as adults, we know roughly, or most of us think we do, how many calories are in certain things. And then children a little bit older can have more. And obviously calories are our fuel, and that's the way we measure them. So I don't want anyone to get hung up on it, but it's just a good way just to get a snapshot. And then so a child ages 2 to 5 should then also have around about 5 to 6, about a teaspoon of added sugar at lunchtime or at a meal. And that will then sort of get them close to, not completely at, that maximum for that sugar that Sophie was talking about earlier. And then obviously I've highlighted the fat as well there. That can be harder sometimes to measure. And really what we're worried about is saturated fat, but all fat, not all fat is bad. So some things from, like we've got avocado there, that would be absolutely fine fat. So it really depends where it's coming from. So if it's meat fats or it's dairy fats, they can be quite high in saturated fat. So what might a healthy lunchbox look like? So we've got two options here. One has come from a lovely document that is from the Food Foundation. That's why it looks really lovely in that lunchbox. And the other one I've just cobbled together what you might find in a child's lunchbox. We do audits. We have a look in children's lunchboxes quite regularly, and we see a variety of things. Okay, so I've just given you two examples. I'm not going to explain what's in them. I think you can perfectly see what's going on there. It's a cheese sandwich, in case you're wondering. It's on brown bread, and they've got a bit of chicken, mayonnaise, and cucumber in the wrap on the right-hand side. So just have a think. Which one looks healthy? Do you think they both look quite healthy and balanced? Is one a bigger portion than the other? How many calories might be in there? I am a calorie counter myself, so I can sort of quickly gauge how much certain things are, but not many people are. So maybe this might be a little bit of an eye-opener when I tell you how many calories. So these are both typical lunchboxes that I have seen in nurseries for children sort of ages 3 onwards. So there's the ingredients. That's what we've got, and what's in it. So those little snapshots I was showing earlier, this is actually coming in at 643 calories. So actually a little bit more than an adult's recommended calorie intake at lunchtime, and then a whopping 17 grams of added sugar. No great shocks as to where that's coming from. It's really coming from the frube and the one chocolate digestive. Okay, so two quite small things coming in quite a lot, quite high with the sugar there. And then 27 grams of fat. So not great. The grams of fat are not too bad, but the fat's coming from the cheese, which we know has got other good benefits like calcium, so not too bad. But obviously those ready salted crisps are really bumping up the saturated fat there. So this isn't ideal, and actually this is nowhere near the worst, in inverted commas, lunchbox that I've seen on my travels through early years, but it's a good representation. So nearly double on every steak what a child should be having, and a little bit more in some things. And then this one's from the Food Foundation. Like I said, there's what it is. Everything's quite specific. And as you can see, it's quite small. It's quite compact. There's a lot of fruit and veg there. And like Sophie was saying about the yogurt, that is just a plain yogurt. Okay, so there's nothing's been put in it, hasn't been sweetened in any way. It's just some yogurt. Obviously, a child could put the satsuma in it if they wanted. They could dip their carrots in it if they wanted. But this one, as you can see, much, much lower in terms of the calories, 366. So that is coming in under those recommendations for a 2 to 5-year-old. It's only got 2 grams of added sugar, and that's coming from the wrap. So hardly any sugar there. We don't have to count the sugar that's in the fruit and veg or from the plain yogurt. Those, you can have those for free. And then really quite low on the saturated fat front as well. So much sort of more rounded, and obviously much higher on your fruit and veg. So getting in more of those portions. And what we find is that lots of children, when they're sitting with their peers, will eat more things, and they'll try different things. If they're doing any food tasting, or Sophie's mentioned fruit kebabs, things like that, when they're making food things, often at school or at nursery, they will try things that they've never tried at home. And you get told, oh, yes, your son tried this at school today. And you're like, oh, I've tried to get him to eat that. And they won't do it at home, but they will because they're with their peers. So the lunchbox is the perfect opportunity to push something new, try something new. And Sophie already said as well, make it colourful, make it look colourful and appealing, more likely to want to eat it. Okay, so what I wanted to do on this slide was just have a think about some of the really simple things that you can do just in your lunch boxes, just some general simple things. So if you're going to go with a cake bar or a biscuit, like we just seen there, you could swap that to some really pretty fruit. So we've got some lovely variety there. So again, variety is key. We've got pomegranate. Can be a bit of a pain to do, but if you do it the night before, get all the mess out of the way into a nice little pot that can be washed up. It's really lovely, really tasty, really unusual, and really nice. Good for fine motor as well. Something like a malt loaf. So this isn't completely, obviously, low sugar, but you're having it with a meal. But the malt loaf is going to be much less than a Mr. Somebody's cake bar. Okay, it's going to be much lower. And we've already seen that plain yogurt. You could be going down that road as well. Okay, so instead of those sort of sweet treats, try and find something else sweet that's not quite as high in sugar. Juice or smoothie. So you've been offering a juice or a smoothie. Sophie's already said it. Fruit kebabs, they're really good. They're fun. You could make them together the night before and put them in a lunchbox. There's some really great, if you just Google or go onto Pinterest and have a look at fun fruit, you will see weird and wonderful things that people do with fruit. And it's really cool, really fun. There's lots of things you can do and things that you could do together. And crisps, Sophie said this one already, plain popcorn. So fun to make, easy to put in little pots, seal them up. They'll last for, the whole week. You could make a little batch of 5 little pots, and there you go. You've got a little popcorn snack for each meal. Rice cakes. People do refer to them as cardboard. I love a rice cake. I can eat it plain. I could eat it with butter on, with Marmite on, with peanut butter on, with cream cheese, with a crushed banana, with some avocado. I mean, the list is endless, and it's quite low in calorie, it's high in fiber, and it's really tooth friendly. So those are good ones. And then something like oat cake. So I've given you a picture there of some that are homemade. So they're really, really easy to make, oat cakes, and you could flavor them. So you can make them a bit cheesy if you wanted. You could put some seeds in, some chai seeds. So again, a fun activity you could do, seal them up in little bags or boxes or something like that, and then you've got your little portions ready to go for the week. So a little bit of effort there rather than just picking something in a package. But obviously in a package, you've got the plastic waste and they're probably a little bit more expensive. So here, thinking a bit more about economy. So when you're putting the things inside the lunchbox, I really want you to think about how old your child is and how big their palm is. So the palm of your hand is your portion. So it applies for everybody. And obviously children's hands are quite a lot smaller than ours. So think about their portion, and you could actually get them to help you. So if you did lunchboxes the night before, you could get them to portion out their fruit and veg and put it into their box or whatever it is they're taking with them. But it is really about portion size. They don't need as much as you think they do. And also there's that guilt as well about sending your child off to eat somewhere else that isn't at home. You can't watch them or help them, and you're hoping that they're going to fill themselves up. You do get a little bit of the guilt. So you might put a bit of extra this in, or I know that they'll eat that, so I'll put that in. And you might be getting wasted food, but also they just might be eating too much. I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, I was always told to clear my plate, make sure you eat everything on your plate. And actually, that's not great advice. You should eat until you're full, not to clear your plate. So maybe have a think about your plate sizes and your lunchbox sizes. Are they too big? Have a think. Okay. The next thing that I would suggest as well would be to add in somehow an extra veg or fruit portion. Okay, swap any processed fruit bars, fruit winders, dried fruit for real fruit. And I love these. Those are little ice cream cones filled with fruit. Might not be very practical in a lunchbox, but you could have a think around that. How could you do that? How could you make your fruit a little bit more appealing? And then we've got some fruit made into a rabbit, which I thought was very cute. So again, something that your children could get involved in, making something fun. Again, Google it, look on Pinterest, endless ways of doing that. And then obviously that's going to get you closer to your 5 a day. So there are lots of places you can go for more lunchbox ideas. So here I've just referenced somewhere that Sophie said already. So Change for Life is that got that sugar app, but they've got loads of recipes. They've got lunchboxes, they've got swaps, all sorts. So really good. Our own website, communitydentalservices.co.uk, is full of ideas on the nutrition page, and that document that I mentioned earlier, that Food Foundations, that's there too. And then you've got Veg Power. Now, Veg Power is obviously, it's on the TV at the moment. It's in full swing. I think we're killing the tomatoes this week or something like that. I think it's the week of the tomatoes to get crushed. So Veg Power is really fun way of doing things. And they've got loads of ideas, and they've got 60-second hack document about just getting more veg, easy ways of getting more veg into lunchboxes or lunchtime. Okay, we also wanted to mention Healthy Start vouchers, and they are a way to get help to buy food and milk. So if you think that you might be eligible, you might be living in a low-income family, this will just help you to eat a little bit more healthily. You get vouchers for children between the ages of 0 and 4. And currently, less than half the people who are eligible in Oxfordshire are actually getting those vouchers. They're trying to make it simpler. And I'm not going to read this out, but you can see there on the screen just what you get for if you're pregnant or if your children are from birth to 1 and then 1 to 4 years old. If you want to scan the QR code that's there right now, it will take you straight to the website and you can check to see if you're eligible. And they're trying gradually, it's a bit archaic, but they're trying to get things back to being online, so applying online, and then you get a card instead of the paper vouchers. So it's really worth doing. You get that free, those vouchers to spend on the fruit and veg and the milk, and then also you could get the Healthy Start vitamins as well, which will have that vital vitamin D in, which will make your children's bones nice and strong. And we have come to the end. Yeah, so we've got our QR codes, haven't we?
Yeah, thank you, Charlotte. I'll just interrupt you quickly because we have got a question that's come through.
How exciting.
So it is, what would be the best drink to pack in a lunchbox that's not milk or water?
Wow.
So to have with lunch.
Oh, that's quite hard. If it's one, it's really hard, isn't it? If it's one off the supermarket shelf, I don't know. It's really hard because I kind of want to say, well, a juice, but then I'd want to dilute it, so I'd want to probably make my own.
There's not really an option that is tooth friendly. However, if you consider other things in terms of getting fresh fruit into children and vitamins and things along those lines, it probably would be a juice. Probably.
I would say if you could kind of make your own, so if you had a little bottle that you could fill, then I'd probably put something like like a not from concentrate juice, like an apple juice and orange juice, but put a small amount and then dilute it with water, so it's heavily diluted, so you're cutting down on the sugar amount but you're getting that nice flavor still. So I'd probably go with that. It's really hard because none of them are low sugar or not acidic or anything like that. So really, children, they don't need anything else. That's the key, isn't it? It's not just we're like saying no to it, but actually they don't need those things. And certainly anything fizzy or anything like that. There's no nutritional value in there whatsoever. So yeah, the juice and the smoothies, you're right, you are getting some vitamins and minerals there, but go for one that's a pure fruit juice rather than from concentrate, and heavily dilute it. And you could give them a straw to go with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's quite tricky, but there isn't really one that you could buy off the supermarket shelf that would do the trick, I don't think. It's a really hard question.
It is. It was a good question for us. Another thing that I think is really important to note is that you might be thinking, well, there's sugar-free options,
yes,
but they're still acidic. So even though you're looking at the supermarket and think, oh, sugar-free squash, things along those lines, they've still got that acidic side to them. So there's not really a particularly safe option there, is there, for your teeth? But obviously, best time to have those nice drinks is with those meals. So it's great to have it with lunch as opposed to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Charlotte. That's the only question we've had so far. So I think if we've not got any more questions, I think we're about finished.
Say our goodbyes.
So just a huge thank you for everybody for taking your time to join us today. On our website, which you've got there, we've got fun activities suitable for a family with young children, so it's really great. It's educational, and we regularly post information, tips and tricks on our social media, so be sure to follow us. We've got those there as well: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and YouTube, which we've been doing loads and loads of great videos, which are also child friendly, so you can head over there and watch some of those as well. But thank you, and thank you for being patient with us at the start. It was our first time doing a live, so hopefully it's gone okay. But yeah, thank you everybody for watching. Thank you, Charlotte.
Right. Thanks, Sophie. Thanks for your time. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.